So I guess, Cuba has been the victim of America's, I don't know, like aggression. I don't know what you want to call it. Like, America just has like a beef with Cuba, and honestly, it all just stems from the Cuban Revolution, and it stems from America being kicked out, and obviously also it has to do with global capitalism and the fight against communism. And Cuba is a nominal communist state that is like close to America. So America is currently in the process of killing as many children and elderly people in Cuba as possible by starving them of oil, making them have rolling blackouts, making them, their hospitals go dark every few hours or whatever, right? So America is currently on a trajectory, I think, to some sort of like invasion or some sort of operation, at least inside of Cuba. And I've seen some evidence that I think Cuba is planning to like fight back, like not take this lying down. Like I've heard that they're potentially arming their citizens, like getting people prepared for, waging insurgent campaigns against American occupation, similar to like Iraq or Afghanistan. So anyway, let's go ahead and watch this video. This is an interview with Ambassador Johanna Tablada. I don't know exactly what her position is, but I assume she's an ambassador of Cuba. And we'll see. We'll see if we can get some more information. See how Cuba is feeling during these hard times that they're going through.
We're very lucky to be joined by Johanna Tablada de la Torre, who is the Cuban ambassador to Mexico, and she's here with us today. We're very lucky to have her here.
So Cuban ambassador to Mexico. So that's I guess what her official position is.
That's today to speak about the attempted impact of these latest sanctions and what Cuba's response has been. So Johanna, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much, my friends. Thank you. It's an honor to be with you today.
Well, we're very glad that you're back with us. And, Johanna, we talked a little bit in the intro about these latest sanctions, which target President Miguel Diaz-Canel, Amistur, ICAP. These are institutions that, again, many people who are in the Cuba Solidarity movement will know very well. In addition to that, there was, this latest round of sanctions last week. Last month, there was another round. There was 11 officials that were sanctioned, and Raul Castro was indicted by the U.S. government. So what can you tell us about the timing of these coercive measures? What has been the response in Cuba? And does it have anything to do with the latest kind of solidarity efforts that have been coordinated on the international stage, like the Nuestra America convoy, in which we saw hundreds of people actually travel to Cuba and participate in this mass solidarity humanitarian convoy effort?
Thank you so much for your question. It's very important now. The decisions, one after the other, that the U.S. government has been taken in order to force the Cuban economy, the Cuban population integrity into collapse by their own design has nothing to do with whatever is going on in Cuba or whatever Cuba is doing against the U.S. It is absolutely linked with the failure of the United States government to put the Cuban people on their knees. United States plan is the same plan since 1959, is to deprive the Cuban people of all source of income in order to impoverish our nation, in order to...
Yeah, that's definitely true. They are... America, since the Cuban Revolution, has, imposed all kinds of sanctions on Cuba, and only Obama, I believe, lifted some and like reopened, like some, I think, ties with Cuba, and that was one of the good things that he did during his presidency. And America just has one speed, man. One speed only. Eviscerate the population, eviscerate the civilians that live there. Try to cause as much pain and suffering to as many people as possible. To try to pressure them into some sort of like, I don't know, like taking up arms or coup against their government. And like, unfortunately, it does to some extent kind of work when it comes, as long as America doesn't start actually like getting into a war, right? As soon as America starts launching bombs at Cuba, then it's over. Like then all of the Cuban people will, rally around the flag. Any sort of people who would have been critical of the Cuban government will, go into hiding or even change their mind and rally around the flag as well. And at that point, there would be no sort of overthrow of the regime. It's the same sort of situation that we're seeing in Iran right now, where America got into a hot war with Iran and is now never going to be able to like get a regime change operation since the bombs started falling. So I'm curious if America is going to go that direction, or if they're going to go more like covert CIA operations. I mean, historically, those types like covert CIA operations historically have worked a lot better in terms of trying to create destabilization and coups and stuff. But they've been trying that as well on Cuba for like 60 years as too. So I don't know with the blockade, which is an active war, by the way, if that would make it easier or harder for the CIA to actually do these types of operations. I don't really know. I would just say, though, if they start bombing or trying to occupy Cuba, I think there will be a rally around the flag effect, and it probably won't succeed, if I had to guess, or at least not in the not in the long term, like over time. The problem also, though, is that I don't think Cuba has prepared for this in the same way that Iran prepared for it, right? Cuba hasn't. Well, number one, doesn't have the geographical terrain that Iran has, but also hasn't like built up its entire society and economy around being able to withstand an American imperial assault. So I don't know. We'll see what happens. Hopefully America doesn't go into like a full occupation of Cuba, but and also I've talked about before, Iran is like out there protecting the world from America, like going from country to country trying to blow shit up. So as long as America is busy with Iran, I don't think they're going to get into another war at the same, like a simultaneous war with Cuba. So I don't know. We'll see what happens.
Humiliate the Cubans in order to hide to the rest of the world the results and the work of the Cuban people and the conquerors of the Cuban Revolution. And lately, what we are witnessing is that out of the incapacity of the United States to have success after the violent, brutally last season of criminal coercive measures against the people of Cuba, they are looking surgically at who is still talking to us, who is still traveling to an island that has been deprived for 6 months of the legitimate right to import oil in order to have the country working to produce, to transport its people. So there have been affecting effectively public transportation, healthcare service, household.
Another thing that America hates about Cuba is how successful that they've been despite all of the sanctions, right? Cuba has one of the most incredible healthcare industries in the world. It's probably better than our healthcare industry, to be honest, even under sanctions. Like, I think Cuba's healthcare industry was probably better than ours. Everybody got free healthcare. They had such an overcapacity of doctors and medical professionals, that they send them on like humanitarian aid missions around the world. It's also a part of like soft power, goodwill building between countries, solidarity, all of that sort of stuff. Those were also a lot more of the ideals of like the original Cuban Revolution and its coordination with the USSR and stuff, and international communism and all that stuff back in the day. But they still kept up with it even in the modern era of sending their doctors to third world countries that are impoverished, and they would just go there and work and teach other doctors as well. And yeah, the success that they've had in their healthcare industry, despite the amount of sanctions that they got, they've also come up with like multiple novel medical treatments as well. Like for instance, I think they've created the basis for a treatment for Alzheimer's, if I remember correctly. And I think that they've also created what is essentially a cure for lung cancer. I don't know if it works on like all types of lung cancer or what, but I know that they have they've made a lot of progress in that field as well. And so I think America really like ideologically also hates that they succeed so much, and they're so like that they're able to succeed so much despite the amount of sanctions that they put on it, and obviously being a nominal communist regime, that also plays a part of it as well.
Life, daily life, it is true. The only thing that is true about what the corporate media is saying is probably the diagnostic. They will go to Cuba and say, hey, look, there are 20 hours of blackout, yes, but they won't go further to look into the causes of that situation. Even though Cuba, that has been portrayed by Secretary of State Marco Rubio and President Trump as a failed state, has been able, precisely because of the kind of system of government that we have, to prevent collapse, to continue working together, to use all the institutions and the power of our population to organize differently in order to face the every time highest and highest difficulties that United States is imposing on us. The approach is to present the inevitability of an economic collapse. It hasn't happened and it won't. Cuba has been working intensively in transforming our electricity grill from electrical power plants to
that's also a huge part of these humanitarian aid missions, is bringing solar powers, which it sounds like that's what she's primarily talking about here, is the United States is starting to criminalize humanitarian aid missions to Cuba, because obviously the whole goal of the sanctions is to eviscerate and destroy the population. And like I said at the beginning, kill as many babies and elderly people in hospitals as possible.
How do you say, photovoltaic energy? With solar panels. Exactly. Solar panels, being very creative in not shooting.
And I think that right now Cuba is at about 30% capacity when it comes to like 30% of their energy is being supplied by solar. But they're definitely going to need to get those numbers up if they want to continue to, be able to operate even like through this blockade, which obviously is not the end all, because oil is still needed for like other things, right? However, it would be a huge buffer against this type of geopolitical bullying to have maybe like 80-90% of their energy coming from solar. So hopefully they can get the solar panels they need from China.
Down what it is the most important activity. So right now, every clinical at a primary level in Cuba has solar panels in order to prevent that a person that arrived will die for a heart attack because the equipment is not working. All of that is being changed dramatically. But I won't hide you. And we should very honest in telling you that it is extremely absurd and painful what the people of Cuba is going through out of the whims of a very small sector of US politicians. The US people over and over in every circuit has been telling their government in big numbers that they don't want that they don't like what US is doing to Cuba, that they don't believe the narrative that Cuba is an unusual and extraordinary threat, and it has been presented in January in order to justify a war measure as it is an oil blockade, an effective oil blockade that has prevented also dozens of airlines to touch Cuban airports to bring tourists that will bring us also income for our education, healthcare services, power plants, and laboratories that produce the medicines that the Cubans needs. It is so. This is new chapters. They went after this mockery of a lawsuit against our leader Raúl Castro. They couldn't get down Fidel, who went who's still invicted from U.S. attacks, as Raúl is, with support from our population. They could put Diaz-Canel on any list, and still it will change every time they were going down. Cuba is multiplying the dignity of its government and our people in resistance. There are countries that doesn't understand what resistance means. But there are several examples right now of other people that had also put very high the word resistant, like the Palestinians are doing
Hmm.
amid the worst barbaric aggression, like the Iranians are doing in defending their territory, their population, and now also defending Lebanon from the brutal attacks from Israel. And when you look who's behind this genocide policy against Gaza or Iran or Cuba, it is the same little reactionary group.
It is.
And we should stay what is at stake here. What in Cuba
Yeah, it's a whole bunch of Epstein affiliates, right? We learned through the Epstein files that the American government is, or I mean, really just global capitalism at large is dependent on a cabal of pedophiles. That's what we found, and so yeah, it's what I colloquially call the pedo billionaires at the top of our society. The people the Epstein affiliates, the people who are ungodly rich, ungodly wealthy, and try to organize society in a way that they can continue to extract as much resources and as much profits from these various other countries as they possibly can. It is up to us as a society to say that that is immoral and wrong and that we should not allow it. And it is very much up to us as Americans to try to change this so that we don't have to constantly live with our marauding band of like pedo billionaires going from country to country trying to extract resources. Like, it's an incredibly immoral system. Most Americans aren't even really tuned in enough to know that, like, to really know what's going on with all of our misadventures abroad, all of our military bases across the world, all of our influence campaigns, all of our CIA operations. Like, a lot of people are just, if it's not like, a lot of people in America are like, if it's not right in front of my face, I don't see it. Right. So, I hope one day we can build towards a better system, but I think it's probably going to get worse before it gets better, unfortunately.
is being discussed now if it is possible or no that a free nation will have the right to develop itself at its real capacity, something that the Cuban people has never have a right to. If any nation in Latin America or elsewhere, we have a right to
Well,
self
Johanna,
to exert self
Johanna,
determination. Go ahead.
Johanna, well, I just want to make sure, because I know we're going to be running out of time here soon. I want to make sure I get to ask you this, since you're mentioning other countries. In many ways, what the U.S. is doing to Cuba is really just a test of what it can impose on other countries around the world. I mean, the U.S. has already used sabotage and economic strangulation methods that were tested on Cuba. They've used those methods on other countries to apply pressure and force economic or political changes. So why then do you think the response from the international community has been so muted? I mean, even regionally, you could say, no country, I think maybe besides Russia, has dared to send oil to Cuba during this time. And there hasn't really been a strong outcry after the country's president was sanctioned. Why do you think that is?
Well, you're right. In fact, we are not very happy with the international response in general. For a country and a population like Cubans that so many times in their history has been able to put aside what is convenient in order to do what is right. The Cuban people and government always has act under a foreign policy of principle. But I will tell you with a lot of proud and very emotion that, for example, where we are, by the way, I'm not I am an ambassador of the Republic of Cuba, but I'm not the ambassador of Cuba in Mexico. My husband, Eugenio, is the ambassador and chief of mission. I'm deputy chief of mission. But here in Mexico, we are witnessing a different thing. Yesterday, for 7 occasions, a vessel with more than almost 2,000 tons of aid arrived to Cuba from Mexico. I think that, for example, in Latin America, we are very grateful.
That's good, because Mexico, unfortunately, has started kind of playing ball when it comes to America, and like in terms of like not sending oil or aid to Cuba. Which is really disappointing, because Sheinbaum, the Mexican president, has been very, very good so far. Like, she's been, a very competent president. She's implemented lots of reforms that are helping, like, uplift the working class. She's, been really good at like going after the cartels and stuff like that as well. So like, it was very disappointing that she kind of fell in line when it comes to delivering stuff to Cuba. So maybe this will be a nice like reset, hopefully get them going in a better trajectory. But anyway, I think that I got to move on. It's already an hour and 20 minutes in, and I've really only been through like 3 videos. This one was a little bit longer. Usually I don't try to watch stuff that's like more than 10 minutes because like, with commentary and stuff, it ends up taking like, I don't know. A 10-minute video usually turns into like 20 to 30 minutes based on like how much I blather. So when I do a 15-minute video, it's like, oh, that's like 30, 45 minutes. So I'm probably just going to stop it around here and move on to the next story.